15th of July, 2006. I'm interviewing
Ada, Lett, Todd.
At
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn in Zanesville, Ohio, for the African American Presence in the Ohio River Valley Oral History Project. Can you spell your name for me, Ada?
It's ADA, and of course Lett, last name Todd, Todd.
And Lett is your maiden name?
My maiden name is Lett, Lett.
And your married name is Todd?
Todd.
Okay. Let's see. So, where were you born?
I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan on November 25th, 1946.
And thank you so much, because you're repeating, because I'm going to be cut out completely. So thank you so much for repeating the question and your answer. And who were your parents?
My parents are Arnold Lett and Belinda Lett. And Arnold was born in Mecosta, Michigan on August 5th, 1910. My mother was born in Remus, Michigan, July 19th, 1905.
Where did you spend most of the years when you were growing up?
In Grand Rapids, Michigan, all my life. I was born here.
There seems that there's a lot of your family in that region. Did you grow up with a lot of your family members? Or?
Yeah, we were all born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then we went a lot up to Remus, Michigan, and Mecosta, Michigan, where we have an old settlers reunion up there. And that's the third week of August we have up there, too. And a lot of us come together, too. So we have a pretty good time.
What was it like growing up around a lot of relatives and people who are connected and kind of migrated together to another area and created a community?
It was fun. I mean, because you were going up there to see your cousins, and you were leaving a big city to go to a little country town. And it was fun because we went every weekend, and we were always getting together. And I mean, it wasn't like one or two cousins. It was a lot of cousins. And we'd go out to the lake, and we were going to a pavilion, and we'd dance to a jukebox. And it was not like 2 or 3. It was probably about 15 of us. We'd go swimming and go into the pavilion and dance and just have a ball.
And this was in Grand Rapids?
We'd go from Grand Rapids to Mecosta, Michigan. Uh-huh.
Do you know what part of your family first migrated to Mecosta, Michigan? In your line?
In my line?
Mm-hmm.
It was the Guy family. My grandfather, which was James Guy, came to Michigan in 1860. And he stepped on the soil in 1860. He was my first grandfather, which was my great-great-great-grandfather, to step foot on the soil. And he bought land there. He bought 160 acres. And he was the first one to come.
And was that land over time, were there different relatives allowed to buy different pieces
Yeah,
of it? Or?
they were allowed to buy different pieces of the land. And to this day, we still have some of it. Not a whole lot of it, but some of it. Because the story was that they migrated to Michigan because the land here in Ohio was too much. So he took his family to Michigan. He had 6 children at the time. And his wife and him, it was Jim Guy, and his wife was Anne Mariah Kellogg Guy. And they had 6 children. Well, when they got to Michigan, she ended up passing away. Well, then he ended up marrying a Norman. I don't exactly know her first name. I can't remember it. But her last name was Norman. They got married, and they had 13 children. And he ended up getting the land, after they got together. And they stayed in Michigan, which is up the road to where I live now. the land is up the road. It's only like a quarter of a mile where I live now in Mecosta. And so they had 13 children. His last child was born with something wrong with her neck, and so she was kind of, her neck was crooked, and her name was Aunt Susie Guy. And I can remember, I was only like 8 years old, and I can remember looking at her and wondering what was wrong with her. Being a child, you're going to stare because you don't know what's wrong with her. And I can remember my mother saying, turn around, that's your aunt, don't stare. And I'm just wondering what's wrong. To this day, I know now what was wrong with her. Something happened to her when she was born, but at the time, as a child, you don't know, so you're going to stare. But yeah, he had 13 children, and that's the only aunt I remember, Aunt Susie and Aunt Kate. That's the only ones I remember.
So can you tell me the story about how the Lett settlement, how people left the Lett settlement was because of the land was too much? Was that cost, or can you tell me a little bit about what you might know?
I don't know a whole lot about that, just what I heard my grandfather tell, that the land was just too expensive. They couldn't afford it, so that they had just decided to come to Michigan because some brother of his had told him that Michigan land was a lot cheaper. So they had decided to go to Michigan and get the land. And so they came to Michigan. And that's where the land, they got the land over there. But how much they paid for it, I don't remember, how much they paid, but I know that the land was cheaper. And that was the story my grandfather had told me.
And how many siblings were in your family? Can you tell me your brothers and sisters' names?
There was, yeah, there's 7 of us. I have a brother, and his name is Arnold William Lett. And I have a sister. Her name is Merle Evelyn Lett Webb. Another sister, Marilyn Louise Lett Vega. I have another sister, Doris Jean Lett Nelson. Another sister, Marjorie Lett Skaliski. Sharon Ann Lett Rucker. And myself, Ada Marie Lett Todd.
Can you tell me about growing up and what were your experiences, and how did you first become interested in family history? What was it, something at a young age that you just began to hear stories, or what was it that really, was it too loud?
You can hear it, yeah.
Okay, we'll just try to talk. You think it'll be, if we talk loud enough, it'll be over it? Or no?
Well, that mic's real sensitive to it.
What do you think if we move that way?
Yeah, we could.
Move this way a little. I was just wondering if you could tell me about growing up in Michigan and the community that you lived in, and what was it like, and what were your earliest memories learning about your family history?
Starting out, I remember I used to kind of ask my father, different things. How many cousins he had, how many brothers and sisters he had. I knew how many he had. How many brothers and sisters did his grandfather have? And he wouldn't say. But my father's grandparents had, one grandfather had 16, had, like I told you, 19. Another one had, 12. I mean, all of them had big families, He wouldn't talk too much. So I'd go to my mother, and she'd tell me what little she knew. But my father wasn't a talker about it. So I'd go to my aunt. My aunt would tell stories, weird stories. And I'm going to tell you the stories she would tell me. They had an aunt, and her name was Aunt Lyd. And my mother spent the night there. And my mother said she was afraid of this aunt because this aunt could make a knock upon the door, and there would be no one there. So one night it was storming, so they had to stay the night at my Aunt Lib's house. So where does my dad put my mother? In the bedroom with my aunt. So my mom says, here I am with one eye open watching his aunt, my dad's aunt, and my aunt's watching my mom. So all night my mom's got one eye on my aunt, and my aunt's got one eye on my mom. And so here my mom's watching her all night, and the next morning, the first thing my mom tells my dad, Arnold, we're going back to Grand Rapids. I don't care how bad it is. I'm not staying another night in this house with your aunt. And so they went back the next day, and she said, and furthermore, don't you ever take me back there again. And he says, why? You know why. I'm scared of her. And he says, why? Because she makes a knock up on the door? My mom says, yeah, and there's no one at the door. And she really could make a knock up on the door. McCosta called her the witch because she could make a knock up on the door. And they said when she died, she had a kind of witchcraft books and stuff. And she really could do it, make a knock. And I mean, I didn't know her, but they said she was really mean. And her name was Elizabeth, but they called her Deb. That was one of the stories. Another story was told to me. I don't know if you want to hear these stories, but I'm going to tell them to you. There was a man, it was one of my dad's uncles, and it was an old Model T or something, some old car. And they went down this one road, and they were heading from Grand Rapids to McCosta. And it was one spot in the road where they would always, the man would always stop. And he said, oh my God, I hit someone. They'd get out of the car, and they'd look all around, nothing there. My mom said every time they'd go from Grand Rapids to McCosta, he'd get to that same spot and say, oh my God, I hit someone. To this day, they don't know why he said it. They don't know if he did hit someone there or it was just in his mind. But my mom said, you know something, Ada? And I said, what? He was a crazy old man anyway. So I don't know if the story was true or not, but that was the story she told me. I know it was true as far as her part. But she said it was like you could hear the thump. Like, you know, they did hit someone. And my mom said even she got out and looked. My dad got out and looked. And of course, as she called the crazy old man, my dad's cousin. Nothing there.
What types of professions did your family members have in McCosta? And what did your parents do? What type of work was there in McCosta? It was a smaller community, wasn't it?
My uncle owned a lumber camp. And it's down everything is down the road from where I live now up there. It was called the Lett lumber camp. And you can go down there, and they still have the old mineral right pumping, still pumping. We owned that at one time. Of course, we don't own it now, but it's still they still have it pumping. I mean, this is all the things they had that they don't have now. But he owned that camp. We have pictures of it, of all of them standing up on the big old lumber that they were doing. And everyone around there had the old work there. All the different people worked there. Plus they had the Lett school. They had the Lett school. And matter of fact, my mom went to the school there too, and it was called the Lett school. And they had a lot of different businesses that the Letts owned. And I'm kind of proud of, I've got pictures of that too. I wish I had brought those too, but we have pictures of those too.
Who founded the Lett school?
Pardon?
Who founded the Lett school?
Joseph Lett, the one that did the lumber camp. He founded the school too.
And were the schools segregated during that time, or was it?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. Well, a lot of the Letts looked white anyway, so
Yeah.
they blended right in with they didn't know no difference. They didn't know any different. And to this day, where I work, they know no different. They have no idea what I am. And if they ask me, I tell them. If they don't, I don't. And it's not that you're not trying to pass. They don't ask, I don't tell.
Should wear something on my shirt. I am.
Right. Or just put that. I always tell everybody I'm going to do that. Oh, I have bladder control. That's about the same thing.
Tell me, so what was the first thing that you learned about your family?
The first thing I learned is that when I first started digging in my family, I didn't know anything about this Benjamin Banneker person. I knew nothing. First time we came down here is when I found out about Benjamin Banneker. I didn't even know who Benjamin Banneker was. And I ended up with one of my cousins